Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got my very first Flieger watch. I've got to admit, I never really understood the pull of these watches. I always thought Flieger watches were a bit too plain. Over the last few months though, I've been falling more and more in love with them, and I decided it was finally time to check out what these watches were all about. So maybe a bit of background before I begin. Flieger is the German word for pilot. These German pilot watches were worn by the German Luftwaffe in World War II and came in two dial combinations, Type A and Type B. The one I have with me today is the Type B dial. Now, the Flieger watch has an extensive history, and there are much better channels than me who have done a great job covering them. I'm going to link a video to Jenny L down below in the description. She's German, which helps, and she has a really good explanation on the history of these watches. So if you're interested to learn more, please do check that out. Before I start my review, I just want to give a shout out to Honest Watch Reviews for bringing my attention to this obscure and frankly very impressive Escapement Time Flieger. Now let's get into the dimensions. This watch comes in a 42mm case, 50.5mm lug to lug, 20mm lug width, and a thickness of 12.3mm or 13mm, depending on where you measure. On the supplied leather strap, it comes in at 95 grams. As those dimensions suggest, this is definitely a large watch. Here's what it looks like on my 6.5 inch wrist. This comes in a stainless steel case that is entirely brushed. You won't find any polished surfaces anywhere on the watch. The front of the watch features sapphire crystal. According to the seller, it has colorless air coating. Now, I don't think it has particularly good coating, but it does look a tiny bit clearer than the non-AR coated sapphire that I have on my SARP 033. Under that crystal is a glossy black dial which looks really well done and clean. The indices are painted white, with the inner track displaying the hours, while the outer track displays the minutes. This is the standard dial configuration of Type B Fliegers. The printing on the dial looks very sharp with no inconsistencies. Very impressive. In true Flieger style, there is no name or logo on the dial anywhere at all. The handset screams high quality to me. The hour and minute hands are heat treated blue, according to the seller, and they're filled with lume in the middle, while the second hand is blued at its base and has white paint at the top section. And guess what? All that white print you see on the dial and hands is actually BGW9 lume. This is what it looks like when the lights go out. I really love the way this dial looks in the dark. I couldn't help but smile when I found out that everything was lumed. The BGW9 lume has a very cool blue tint to it, and it glows very evenly, even if it's not the brightest or longest lasting lume I've seen. Now, over the back of the case, we have a screw down case back with a deep engraving of the planes the German Luftwaffe flew. If you know the model of these planes, please let me know in the comments. The case back has some nice brushing around it, and it has the usual list of specifications, which includes, that's right, a 300-meter water resistance rating. That's practically unheard of on a Flieger. I'm not going to go to those depths to find out if it's true, but maybe Gary from I Like Watches Too can do a test review on this on Herman to see if it really holds up. I've tested this in the shower and submerged it with no issues at all. So I'm fairly confident in its ability to survive non-diving activities. Now, beneath that case back is the Seiko Instruments NH35 movement. It's a solid, reliable movement that comes with hacking and hand-winding functions. It beats at 21,600 beats per hour, has 24 joules, and has a 41-hour power reserve. The NH35 is one of those movements I swear by. I've never had a bad experience with one. It's no wonder why it's the go-to movement for hundreds of micro brands and these new waves of high-quality Chinese watch brands too. Mine has been averaging at -5 seconds per day. For a watch at this price range is very respectable. On the side of the case, you have a screw-down crown. It looks like an onion crown that you traditionally find on Stowa Fliegers. It features nice knurling that makes it very easy to grip, and it screws in and out very smoothly. Once it's unscrewed, it hand winds with a nice feeling action. The first position is a ghost position, with no audible clicks when you turn the crown. I guess they removed the date disc from the movement inside. Now pulling it to the last position hacks the second hand, and this allows you to set the time. The strap and buckle that come with this watch are very high quality. The strap is dark brown with hints of maroon. It's thick but suits the aesthetics and breaks in really well. Even the keepers feel really solid. Stitching is very well done, and the orange at the back is a nice touch. It adds a subtle pop of color to it. Now that I showed you around the watch, I'm going to go into what I like about it. First thing I like about it, it's the looks. I'm surprised because I don't usually like Type B dials. I always found it very busy. I think this is a fantastic representation and I really like the way it looks. The glossy black dial and stark white print gives it a good contrast. The size and length of the hands look very well balanced to the overall dial. If you look closely, you'll notice that the tips of the hour, minute, and second hand all extend to the very edges of the registers, making reading the time a breeze. Now this is a very small detail, but that's exactly it. You don't expect this kind of detail in a watch at this price range. Next up, I like the fit and finish. Honestly, I think the brushing is fantastic. It's very consistent and it looks really impressive compared to even some way more expensive watches. I think they did a really great job on the brushing and it just looks so high quality. This is just an overall well-made watch. It feels really quality and solid, even down to the buckle. And this watch came in at below $100. Which leads me into the next thing I like about this watch. Its value. Now I got this watch for $90 US. I have no idea why it's listed at that price. Credit where it's due to Escapement Time, but a watch like this could easily be 4 times the price if it was a German brand. I've tried the Laco Augsburg at an AD right about a week before I got this. Now that Laco is one of the original Flieger brands and I absolutely love the model. It costed around $350 and to be honest, I felt like it had almost similar build quality to this Escapement Time. Maybe it was just marginally better and had a bit more refinement. Now I'm not saying that the Laco is overpriced. Instead I'm saying that this Escapement Time represents fantastic value for money. Another thing I like about this is the heat-treated blue hands. Now don't quote me on this, but I actually got in touch with the seller and he told me it was heat-treated blue. Honestly, it looks like it's heat-treated blue. It doesn't look like the paint that you normally see on similar watches at this price point, or even Seiko watches at 5 times this price point. Those heat-treated blue hands really elevate the whole look of the watch. Now, what about the things I don't like? Let's start with the biggest one. And yes, pun intended. I dislike the size. Now, I know that Fliegers are traditionally larger for readability, but I would have liked to have a smaller footprint for this. Here's how it looks like when compared to my SKX 007. The 42mm dial looks huge because it's almost all dial. The 50.5mm lug-to-lug pushes the limits of comfort on my 6.5-inch wrist. The thickness doesn't help either. To me, it just didn't feel comfortable or versatile enough for daily wear just because of the size. If this had been 40mm with a lug-to-lug of about 47, now that would have been perfect, at least for me. The next thing I don't like is the caseback engraving. Remember what I told you at the start about the thickness being different depending on where you measure it? That's because of the engraving. If you look at it closely, the caseback engraving actually protrudes below the lowest point of the case by almost 1mm. You don't feel this on the wrist, but when you put it on the table, this is what happens. Now I find this very annoying and I have no idea how this was an oversight. The next thing I don't like about this watch is the fact that it eats straps. Now what do I mean by that? Well, the side of the case that faces the strap is really sharp and the lug hole is too close to the case. This might damage thicker leather straps. This is what happened to mine when I initially put it on the watch and wore it for a couple of days. Lastly, I do want to point out a small QC issue I found. So I recently got this macro lens and I was so excited to test it out. Honestly, I wouldn't have found this QC issue without it. But if you look at the hour hand at the base, there is some rust or discoloration. Now, this is the only blemish I found on the watch, but I just wanted to point it out anyway. Honestly, even after I saw this in macro, I could not spot it again when I was using the watch normally. So to sum things up, I think this Escapement Time is an absolutely fantastic watch, especially if you're a fan of the Flieger aesthetic and have a 7-inch wrist or larger. The fit, the finish, and the details are at a level that is not usually seen in sub $100 watches. It's not perfect by any means, but for a version 1, this Escapement Time really knocked it out of the park. If you're like me and if you're unsure you'd like the Flieger look, this is a great watch to get to find out if you actually would warm up to it. I honestly feel like they could be charging way more for this, and it's fantastic that they aren't. I highly recommend this watch, and I'll be following the Escapement Time brand really closely from now on. Escapement Time, if you're watching, please release a 40mm Type A dial. I'll be the first in queue to get it. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, please hit the like button. It really helps this channel out a lot. And don't forget to comment or subscribe. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you guys next time. Take care.